We're live and on air. I'm Brian. I've got a little bit of an introduction here. Everyone should be seeing the slide presentation on the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And the beautiful people at the bottom.
Having a little trouble advancing.
Move your mouse to the right. There you go. Click, click.
So what we're doing is following the case clinic format. Hunter and I will be co-moderating the presentation as the case givers, and then everyone else will be serving as coaches or assuming the coaching role. I guess we'll be kind of winging the timekeeper. Normally we have a timekeeper and using the case clinic framework here.
George is going to keep
Okay.
Keep time for us. And so, of course, this is the case clinic format that you'll get in the U.Lab course when you go to it and you look through the course information. It's been slightly modified, particularly for this group and for moving forward.
Yeah, at least for this evening's presentation. So we've just taken a couple of minutes to assign select a timekeeper. We'll take the next 10 minutes to introduce. This is the overview for the case clinic. So I'm founding director of Group Gnosis. I've worked with the underpinnings of integral thought and theories since first introduced to Ken Wilber's Eye to Eye around, summer of 1997. Likewise, much of my background with contemplative practice has been informed through personal study and practice in Theravada Buddhism. My current focus is grounded in exploring organizational learning and conscious practice through shared collective practice experience, which we're doing. Joseph, see him as embodying an entrepreneurial soul with good-natured enthusiasm and heartfelt compassion for his community. Joe is co-owner of a local food hub in Atlanta, Georgia. In addition to his focus on creating change at the organizational level, he's exploring ways in which to present a more integral or holistic consciousness.
I'm Hunter Hartley. I have 2 degrees from Virginia Tech. I currently sit on the board of a 501c3 that operates here in Roanoke in one of the underserved neighborhoods. And we help operate a farm and look at economic development in the area. And I'm really interested in seeing that be a success and overcoming some of the challenges that are inherent in the current economic system that we're functioning in, and trying to work in such a way that we actually can add some vitality to the neighborhood and to the rest of Roanoke as a whole by being able to effectively overcome those challenges.
I'm George Clemens. I operate a local business for about 30 plus years. It's a flower shop and greenhouse. I am learning more about sustainability and how to manage my business and the people I work with in a better way.
And then just to add in for the other individuals who not everyone's been made aware of, Vijay is a contemplative practitioner who I met on a 10-day silent meditation course, which is a Vipassana course. If you want to take just a quick few seconds and give us a better introduction, and we can go down then with Kathy and Alan as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Vijay. I'm working in Boston area as a data scientist. Apart from my work, I spend a considerable amount of time doing some Vipassana practice and also reading a lot about the social and economic problems and ecological problems. So I thought this course will give me a greater depth in understanding both the problems and the effective ways we can work towards solving them. Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Kathy, if you want to unmute yourself. And
Sure, hi. I met Vijay also through a meditation process. Can you all hear me okay? I'm in a cafe.
Yes.
Okay. And so I think I spent about 3 years intensely in an anapanasati or breathing meditation practice, and about last summer I started to come out of that and feel like, okay, it's time to learn again. And one of the things that was paramount to me was, how do I interact with people, and what is a good way to put things in motion for a good future for people who come after me and right now. So I thought I should learn a bit more about a good model, and particularly business models and social models. So this, when Vijay sent me the link for you, Hunter, I was happy to see it. Thanks.
Thank you. And if Alan, you'd like to take a second to introduce yourself.
Vijay got me into this. I really don't know what this is about, but I used to work for a large seed company which was investigating improving vegetable varieties, and I've always had a hobby of growing things that were unusual, and right now I'm into hardy citrus breeding. Let's see. Well, I've always been aware of the status of our planet and being concerned about it since I was about 10 years old, and always felt there was really nothing I could do about it. So this is a good opportunity to see what other people are thinking.
Alan, can I ask a quick question? Where's Hartwell, Georgia? Because you're probably in the same state as me, and I'm just curious where.
I'm in the northeast part. Actually, I should say northwest. I'm sorry.
Northwest. So above Atlanta.
I'm still saying it wrong. It's near the South Carolina border. I'm right on the border with South Carolina.
Because
I'm also near North Carolina.
Okay, because I'm about a half hour south of Atlanta, and then I have a farm in Macon, maybe 2 hours south of here. So I'd like to connect with you as a sidebar, because I'm into farming and a whole new model, but we can connect later.
All right, great.
Joseph, can you relay it? Do you have a way to relay a link to Joseph via me?
Well,
the link for the...
well, yeah, because I'm going to switch pretty soon from this over to my phone so I can get my car. So if you could email a link to that Gmail, because I just put the Google Hangout app on my phone, but
He's going to work on it, Joseph. Let's go ahead and move along. So we'll
yeah, perfect. Go ahead.
So the Roanoke Group of practitioners began working together earlier this year through our participation with the U.Lab in January. Since that, over that same time period, we subsequently initiated and supported each other in various projects, including the Homestead Collective at Roanoke's Earth Day. You know what? So as a collective group, we're this is a graphic that Hunter had found, and as we worked with it for presentation purposes, found that it's it's an interesting. The language is simple and the imagery is pretty straightforward. So this is essentially the U here, and through the course of U.Lab 2.0, this is the process, the collective process that we're looking at sharing. We're beginning with step 1, and in respect to this presentation of the coaching circle, the case clinic, the current situation entails asks what key challenge or question are we up against, and so I'm just reflecting that here back to the group of the design, strategic, or innovation challenge we as a hub currently face entails involving a. I've got the wrong presentation up. I'm going to have to switch out. Give me a minute and just take a second to do that. Sorry.
It just taken out the sufficient number of individuals. Was that the one change?
No, I've got to take. I've got them running wrong. How now do I get to?
You should just hit the exit button on your laptop.
Huh?
Exit button on your laptop should do that.
The escape?
Yes. You moving into the screen share? There we go. So this is the order of the slides kind of got changed around. So do you want to go back?
No, that's okay. So
this is directly out of the material from the course, and Alan, you had mentioned. I know I'd relayed the link to you for the course material off of edX, but one of the underlying principles that kind of is the reason we're turning as a group to Theory U is best quoted from Otto Schalmer, who teaches the class in his book Leading from the Emerging Future, and it states simply that the quality of results produced by any system depends on the quality of awareness from which people in the system operate from. The long and short of that boils down to bringing mindfulness actually into this group process gives us the potential to produce much more quality results, because as we bring that awareness to what we're doing, we're able to more fully see the system that we're operating within and more effectively then make change because we're being mindful of the full system.
The underlying idea is really very, very profound from the standpoint of bordering on being a post-metaphysics. So the practice actually works with a different idea rather than form following function, that form actually follows consciousness, or the quality of conscious awareness or experience. So, as I was saying, so I'm just opening the question, what key challenge or question are we up against, back to the group as a whole. What is the design, strategic, or innovation challenge that we're currently facing? And that will, that's something that we can kind of hold to discuss a little later. In respect to the work that we've done here in Roanoke as a group, through U.Lab 1.0, we created something, or something approaching a mission statement came out of that experience, and it was incorporated within a framework, a draft of articles of incorporation for 501c6, along the lines that we envisioned and subsequently proposed, adopting whole system approaches to vitalize the city's socioeconomic well-being by innovating designs in community, really community building. The wealth is there in parenthesis because that's some borrowed terminology that Gar Purposes democracy collaborative is working with. So I've just kind of borrowed it for the time being. This is a framework for a website that for the 501c6.
So for anyone who's not familiar, the distinction between a 501c3 and a 501c6, so 501c6 works more as a collective of organizations that function under a nonprofit structure, as opposed to an individual entity functioning as a nonprofit. So it has much more collaborative potential and organizational capacity regarding how the business is able to function. And so that's why we chose to explore that moving forward as a way to establish a means of building wealth in the community.
So step two, we looked at step one. Step two would entail convening a core team as a strategic microcosm of the whole system. And so the question or inquiry around that can entail or does entail stakeholders. Just who is a stakeholder? What role or function do they have or serve in relation to the greater whole? I think that we'll kind of explore that a little bit as we go, because there's a couple of different ways, perspectives in which that can be viewed. And then we're moving then this week from co-initiating to co-sensing. So once your core group practitioners is in place, basically what you're doing is having identified the design challenge. In step 3, you begin to explore that issue in depth, and there's kind of different ways, different approaches that individuals as collective members will take in that process. So that would be, that's co-sensing, and we're really beginning kind of that this week with the coursework in U.Lab 2.0 this week.
Can you go back just one minute? Just to reiterate the importance of mindfulness, as you can see, step 4 then moves into synthesizing insights and discovering the deeper patterns, which of course can sound like a pretty basic homework assignment. Could you? Sorry, What?
I had my screen working better before. I'm trying to get back to it. Okay, sorry.
It can sound something like a homework assignment or something that's kind of not as important, but really at that step, being able to maintain a level of mindfulness and actually start taking that information as you've been, that relates to the chosen kind of problem that you're choosing to explore, really then relates to that question, what future are we trying to create? Understanding what the possibilities are starts with understanding the present well enough to be able to discern what possibilities you can start moving towards. So really being mindful as we begin to explore here, as you could see, the quality of the actual outcome is going to be greatly affected by how much attention is being paid as you do step 3 in exploring that issue.
Okay, and this is something that I wanted to present because the next few slides, and it's for the presentation in general, this is kind of an underlying theme that I'm, it's a reflection really of, to a great extent, where our group is currently sitting in respect to collective practice. Okay, so this is a quote from Dustin DePerna's recently published Streams of Wisdom. What he says is some models that employ state and realm technology like Theory U, developed by MIT lecturer Otto Scharmer, are already gaining momentum within both academic and business institutions. Scharmer's model includes a new mode of collective problem solving by taking groups through a cycle of states, tracking from gross to subtle to causal, back to subtle, and back to gross. So that would be the U. The Theory U process results in emergent solutions that come from exposure to alternate states. I agree with that, at least in part, but as the next few slides will show, I think that that is kind of he may be selling the U theory model a little short of its actual capacity. So this is a recreated graphic from DePerna's Streams of Wisdom, and where in that previous quote, he's just really talking about the state realm in terms of what is known, or you might say what's known or what's knowable. And you see gross, subtle, and causal here. So states, can be ordinary or extraordinary. Ordinary states, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep are, perhaps the most common, most typical that we think of. But what's important here is that where the integral knowledge rests, there are two other, in addition to states, two additional dimensions. This being vantage point or state stages of consciousness in terms of the knower, and it's a subjective dimension of the knower, and then the lens through which the world and operating systems are experienced are in the structure stages.
So for relating this to the U.Lab and the material that directly parallels, the lens of knowing with the traditional modern, postmodern integral is the 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0, moving up from traditional to integral. So those are the translations.
Say again?
The traditional is the 1.0 operating systems, modern is 2.0.
Right.
Translating to traditional is kind of the authoritarian, modern is the free market, postmodern is, you then have the government, the free markets, and then you have the NGOs, these kind of philanthropic ventures, and then integral is a co-creative venture between those three, which then produces something that would at this point be hard to put to words because it's actually our job to construct together with each other what that is, what that begins to look like, and how we operate within that space.
As Otto says in one of the early videos, it's becoming pretty evident that something is dying. He says, but what is being born is less observable. It's less clear. It's less well defined. So, in relation to Diperna's vantage point for state stages, this is the potential way, rather than just merely simply states of consciousness, that I'm, in my experience, wondering, I'm kind of holding, does theory U actually, is the process, more closely related to state stages as a learning system, and this is a graphic I created. As I say over here, it's a composite, and I've done the graphic, which is a little unusual for me, prior to beginning to write it up and reference all of the respective influences and reference the sources. Some of it is Diperna, some of it is Michael Fisher, some of it is because I'm spacing their name, I'm going to have to not mention them.
But as this relates, for those who have a grounding already in contemplative practice, some of these words might make a little more sense, like gross, subtle, and causal. But it mirrors what is supposed to go on with the theory U. We often talk about, an evolution of consciousness, or you might hear that phrase kind of thrown around. The premise with theory U and with this fourth level that we're working towards being operating within is that in order to have that evolution, you first need an involution, and that's kind of the downward movement. It's recognizing the ignorance. It's recognizing when there's fear, when you hear that voice of judgment, when you hear the voice of cynicism, when you hear the voice of fear, which are pulled directly from the Course. And then at the bottom of the U, you get to a process known as presencing, which, as we move through the Course, the relevance of that and what that looks like and means will become more clear. But if you've gone through the Course material, the video with the conductor is what that's in reference to. From that point, though, and moving back out, the confusion by your individuality will hopefully be changing. That will be something that is evolutionary, and you will not be as confused by your individuality. Concepts of time and space, which might be limiting, will no longer be limiting as such. Your personality will no longer be a limiting factor, and the thoughts themselves that you have and the association of those with yourself won't be as much of a problem. So you can see the benefits of mindfulness in this practice for anyone who's familiar with it, because not being confused by your thoughts is a pretty basic concept that's people are first often introduced to.
One of the ideas I'm kind of holding and wondering about, because integral practitioners have kind of referred to this kind of reference. This is from Ken Wilber, paper that he did in 2005, 2007. The link here is actually at the bottom. But you see the U here. It's been on the horizontal, but there are those that have seen this path as referred to it as involution, and kind of as Hunter was saying, then at the U-turn that it becomes evolutionary. It's evolutionary direction.
And Kathy, you'd made a comment about your meditative practice and then coming out of it and being in a space of having to now relate with other people and kind of asking, you know, how do I interact with people? This movement is, what, from my personal experience, something that helps to address that. And of course, then as a group, having that ability to interrelate with each other should hopefully, for all of us, make that more clear. So, this is pulled, again, directly from the course material, and you can see on the right, as I had mentioned, the 1.0 operating system, 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0. And again, it's a movement. Brian had mentioned integral, which is, as you can see at the bottom, it's the 4.0. It's kind of operating from that mindful space. And it's one of the important things to recognize about that, and you can see it with the movement through the U, is that the goal is not to leave the other three behind and you're at something that's separate from it called integral. Integral, as it sounds, is referring to integrating the other structures and having an appreciation for them, a functional understanding of them, being able to interrelate with people who might be functioning at a different state or structure stage in order to have better results.
So the Perna kind of works with the conventional idea of transcend and include those earlier levels, but also penetrate in that it is an acknowledgement in going with the cube model, that three-dimensional cube model, also in respect to integral of not only individual and collective, but interior and exterior, or internal and external. You hear Sharma kind of refer to that occasionally in terms of the effect of externalities as being part of the underlying problem that are these operating systems, particularly the 2.0 modern operating system is reaching kind of its operational capacities, or
referred to sometimes as the limits to growth.
Right. So in the cube model, over here these are the Pernas referred to them as three different vectors of spiritual growth. Because we're kind of focusing on this on the state stage aspect of subjective experience, conscious awareness, but how that translates both in the two dimensions of individual benefits to the individual would reflect a shift beyond exclusive identification with the ego or those earlier stages. In the collective benefits, then would at an integral level reflect an enlightened culture. And I put up this image of this last week was one of the word clouds. The question was, which of the systemic issues shown above out of the 8 that are just under the tips of the iceberg are most relevant to the challenge, issue, or system you want to address during U.Lab. Share up to 3 responses below, then click and see what your classmates' responses were. So you can see here I chose leadership, ownership, and governance. Leadership had 16% at that point, came up large, as did governance at 9%. Not so much on the ownership. And I found that very, very interesting. I kind of included it because I believe that it's something, it's an appreciation that Hunter and I both share in our respective vantage points.
And in particular, our work here in Roanoke and working with a lot of other individuals. There's many great people in Roanoke who are really excited about the work that they're doing and excited about having some sort of creative change. But one of the questions that never seems to get meaningfully addressed is that of ownership moving forward to resolve these problems. Right now, our city is attempting to sell off part of one of our parks to a developer for something like a Walmart or a box store, which is clearly an issue of ownership and relating that to the commons, and then you can see governments and leadership tying in there. But ownership doesn't really get discussed formally, and how that interrelates with each of us in our daily lives, or the spiritual aspect of that is just a blind spot that our culture doesn't really address.
And that's the key for me, from my perspective, is that I believe that it is really, it's something I've read and studied my share of John Locke and John Locke's influence kind of upon, we're here in Virginia, we're in a Commonwealth state, so on common law and the role of property in terms of personal property, in terms of ownership. And that's a very foundational structure in terms of our understanding of democracy. And I think that it is based upon rather archaic kind of spiritual knowledge at this point, that I believe it appears to me as though spiritual growth and development is moving along the lines of liberation, and that probably most people are not making the connection between maybe that liberation and ownership, that they, it seems kind of duplicitous.
So at this point, and as you all end up doing your cases in subsequent weeks, this is kind of an introduction and a lot of information. But after the case is presented, you get to a point of stillness, which is mindfulness practice together as a group, and utilizing the tools throughout the U.Lab that we're introduced to, using it to connect to our deeper senses of knowing, our deeper source of knowing. So we're going to take 3 minutes at this point. The directions as written are: listen to your heart, connect with your heart into what you're hearing, and listen to what resonates. Ask what images, metaphors, feelings, and gestures come up for you that capture the essence of what you've heard. So at this point, too, we're going to end our presentation, or the live stream, and what's captured, which will be available online later. And I think that was just done.